Last time we checked in with the Strange Academy kids, they had gone to Madripoor in search of the Darkhold. This tome of ancient dark magic contained the Montesi formula, a magical spell which would rid the world of all vampires. Which is really convenient in something like Blood Hunt when vampires attacking the world. However, it'll get rid of all vampires, good ones and bad ones. The kids then discovered that the Darkhold was no longer a book. Instead, it was a young boy dressed in fairly nice clothes. He was actually casting the Montesi formula when Pia, a new student at the academy, attacked him. This stopped his spell and revealed that Pia was, in fact, herself a vampire. Her best friend, Hermione, struggled with this news. He had been attacked by vampires as a child and held a long hatred of them. He and Pia talked about their friendship and seemed to reach a point of peace. This is when Agatha Harkness showed up. The old witch was the reason that the Darkhold had been turned into a person, and she wanted his power. Kid Darkhold teleported away, and he took Pia with him. Which is when things got even weirder, because that's when Dr. Doom showed up. Out of nowhere. He told the kids that he had a way of saving the world without destroying all of the good vampires, and they agreed to work with him, but only if he helped rescue their friends. Issue 2 then ended with Kid Darkhold and Pia arriving at a fighting ring, which is where Issue 3 opens. Kid Darkhold leads Pia down to the ring. Pia is so convinced that vampires should exist, he says, that Kid Darkhold figures that he'll test them. He summons a horde of weird monsters as a way of gauging Pia's fitness. Pia knows that she can't beat Kid on her own, so she pulls out her cell phone and summons her own backup. The Academy kids are busy fighting vampires when Herman gets her text. He manifests a pack of green spirit animals and runs off after her, cutting himself off from his friends. He is quickly surrounded. My name is Ben, and this is Comic Book Breakdown's continued coverage of Blood Hunt, episode 22, The Magic of Friendship. In the arena, Kid Darkhold is actually helping Pia with her test? This is how you give someone a chance, yes, he asks. Humans love a meritocracy. Quote, what is humanity if not centuries of proof that the quality rises to the top, end quote. He turns and sees a monster about to bite off Pia's face. Looks like she's about to fail the test. Time to unleash the Montesi form! There you are, my dear Darkhold, a woman's voice interrupts. And Kid Darkhold freezes. Agatha Harkness has found him. Back at Herman, the vampires pounce on him. But then he's defended by zombies? Which I gotta say is kind of pretty cool. The other Academy students have caught up and they save Herman. Zoe and Doyle berate him for making stupid decisions, like running off in a vampire attack to go save a vampire, and they know all about making stupid decisions, I'm assuming, from previous Strange Academy comics and stories. Again, I do not know. Herman re-solidifies his position to see Pia as a friend, not as someone who needs to be saved. He will show up for her, and then he will do whatever she needs done, not what he wants to do. At the arena, Agatha starts throwing out magical blasts that appear to undo magic or cancel it out. So, back in the first issue of this miniseries, Kid Darkhold combined a dude on a boat with his dog into like some kind of monstrous minion guy. And that dude is here in the arena. He gets hit by one of Agatha's blasts and he turns back into the man and the dog. And they are both super confused. As is Kid Darkhold, whose powers don't seem to be working, ? He runs off, and Pia follows, prepared to end his threat. But he pleads for his life. Being human isn't about being the fittest, it's this. Vulnerability, he says. He admits that he's made mistakes, he is a monster. But he's also just a boy. He just wants to live. Can Pia remember what that feels like? And of course Pia can. We see her flash back to the attack that turned her into a vampire. It wasn't all that long ago that she wanted to be alive so desperately. Kid Darkhold apologizes for being so cruel to her. He seems sincere enough that Pia lends him her familiar, the blue glowing rabbit-like Tito. The form appears to grant immunity to the effects of magic, meaning that Kid Darkhold is back in the game. But this doesn't mean that I trust you, Pia says very tsunderily. I just need your help to beat Agatha because she's probably going to try to kill me too. Agatha then creates multiple copies of herself and prepares to octuple down on them. Pia texts the Academy kids again, and then we are back in the fight. Pia, Kid Darkhold, and the boatman and his dog all fight against Agatha. Kid Darkhold points out that the real Agatha can use magic, the others are just copies, so, that's how you know to hit the real one. Pia readies to fight, but that's when the Academy kids show up. Ba-da-da-da! Herman is swinging his baseball bat, Doyle's over here with a pipe, and Kid Darkhold picks up a piece of wood from somewhere? Apparently Floop using magic lets just hit people with inanimate objects. Hell yeah, I'm down with this form of magic. Agatha, the real one, decides to focus her attack on Pia. She figures that hurting the girl will summon Tito back to her, leaving Kid Darkhold open for another spell. But while she is preparing this bit of magic, Kid Darkhold hits her with the no magic spell, Suck It! He tells her to get out of here, and it looks like he sends her away. She just kind of turns to smoke. I don't know if she does that or if he does that. Maybe she teleports out and I'm reading the moment wrong, but yeah. In any case, she's out, fight's over. Kid Darkhold turns and finds himself inadvertently surrounded by the strange Academy kids. Herman crosses his arms. What should we do with the Darkhold brat, Pia? Pia says that he's fine. She isn't forgiving him, not yet, but she's willing to give him another chance. Both Herman and Kid Darkhold are surprised at this. She goes on to suggest that Kid Darkhold should actually join them as a student at the Strange Academy. Ha ha ha! Yes! My dream for this kid came true. Good for you, kid. Zoe isn't sure if they can do that, if they can just be like, hey kid, come to our school, and the staff will be alright with it, but Doyle is sure that the faculty won't mind. I mean, should they really let the Dark Messiah of dark magic just wander around the world like an idiot doing as he pleases? Which is a pretty good point. Oh, and speaking of doing things that they probably shouldn't, Doyle asks Herman if he still has Dr. Doom's coin. And he sure does. And we then bounce to Castle Doom in the heart of Latveria. The kids banter about Doctor Strange apologizing for trying to wipe out all vampires, which isn't in any comic published, by the way. That never actually happens on panel, before we see Doctor Doom, Doctor Strange, and Clea enter the room. I think the artist is intentionally trying to downplay the change that has happened here, because Doom's usual green cape has been replaced. He has the Eye of Agamotto and the Cloak of Levitation around his neck. It's a little hard to make out because we are kept from a long distance from Doom, but both of these items are gifted specifically to the Sorcerer Supreme. He tells them all to stop talking and he starts weaving some magic. He draws forth a multicolored mist from them all, binding it into a single spell. He will save the world. All he's asking from them is everything. We end on a multi-panel shot of the kids' faces as the spell is cast. And the rest of that scene will play out over in Blood Hunt issue 5. This ending, while I did get what I wanted, Kid Darkhold joining the Strange Academy roster, frustrated the ever-living heck out of me. First off, let me say that I did enjoy the emotional character work that's being done here. I liked Herman realizing that he was seeing Pia as someone who needs to be protected all of the time, rather than as an individual who needs his support. I liked Kid Darkhold realizing that life is fragile, and as such, it's precious and it has meaning. I liked Pia not forgiving Kid Darkhold, but acknowledging that he was trying to do a good thing. He was trying to save the world, and he's learned the difference between saving the world and killing a bunch of people. And he is trying to do better. He's not very good at it yet, but he's working on it. Those are some pretty satisfying character beats for 3 issues of a comic book. They're also the best things about the issue overall, as far as I'm concerned. We have essentially 2 main conflicts for this issue. We've got the Academy Kids versus vampires, and then Pia and Kid Darkhold and the Academy Kids versus Agatha. The vampire half of this comic is pretty much not a threat at all until Herman rushes off into them, and this bit of the story is just frustrating. We've seen in other titles, like Bloodhunt itself and the Dracula and Black Panther miniseries, that vampires are attacking the world in hordes, literally tearing people apart. Not metaphorically, not off-panel, literally on the page. So the fact that this group in Madripoor would surround Herman and then just maliciously wait, closing in on him dramatically, is stupid at this point. This isn't how vampires are being shown to behave across the board. Why would they do so here? At least over in Midnight Suns, author Brian Hill is really playing up the horror vibes of the story. That's why you get a lot of long, drawn-out horror movie shots. Strange Academy is not playing with horror themes or horror vibes at all. And I'm not saying that Herman should have been killed or turned into a vampire, but this scene feels manufactured in a bad way. This feels like lazy writing. The related story element about Herman and how he viewed Pia feels kind of out of nowhere as well. Maybe I'm just also in the wrong here, and it could be, but the last 2 issues of this comic were about how bad Kid Darkhold was, and he just teleported Pia away to they don't know where. The assumption that Pia needs to be saved feels right from Herman's perspective, from my perspective. Plus, him realizing that how he's viewing his friend in his friendship is toxic is a super mature thing for a person his age to do. And to do it during a vampire attack on the entire planet when your life is in danger? I'm not saying that it couldn't happen, but it feels incredibly self-aware for someone this kid's age. Like, to me, rather than Herman having this realization on his own, it feels a lot more like the author is trying to teach us a lesson as the audience. And I'm not against comic books being used as examples of behavioral tactics, like this is how we should behave in the real world. Superheroes are, at their core, moral lessons about doing the right thing and helping other people. This fits that kind of vibe, it's just done really poorly. Here in Strange Academy, the vampire threat that is literally threatening the entire planet and has faced down characters like the Avengers feels like an afterthought to the rest of the story. Rather than demonstrating why these kids are so adept at handling vampires, this book feels like the threat of vampires has just been dumbed down so that the kids can handle them on their own level. This feels like they're playing on easy mode where the Avengers have like expert triple hard mode. The conflict with Pia and Kid Darkhold at the end of Strange Academy issue 3 also feels totally forced and absolutely nonsensical. I mean, we solved their personal beef last issue, didn't we? Kid Darkhold accepted that Pia's individual life had value, and Pia accepted that he was doing what he thought was best. Mistakes were made. They admitted it. We got over it. It felt like this was done. The idea that Kid Darkhold needs to, like, test Pia to see if she's worthy of survival really feels like it comes from out of nowhere, and I don't know where he gets the idea. The best explanation that I can come up with, because this isn't presented in the comic, is that Kid Darkhold believes that this is necessary because that's been his life. Previously, as a spell book, Darkhold's existence was predicated on having a use. If a book's not useful, it's not made, it's not produced, it's not kept around. Kid Darkhold was made for a purpose, and a person is not. So I can see a world in which Kid Darkhold applied his own life experience to Pia, and if he can only exist because he's useful, then the same must be true of her. But his test is stupid. They were already in a combat situation. Why test Pia with a horde of demons when a horde of vampires was already attacking them? Why not set her against Agatha, who came for him at the end of last issue? And if you're going to test her by having her fight a bunch of demons, why are you helping her fight demons, my dude? Additionally, Kid Darkhold fled from Agatha last issue. He was running scared. I did not get the impression that he meant to go to the arena so that he could test Pia. He wasn't going, oh, this is the perfect time to teleport out of here to an arena. I'll set up a fight between Pia and a bunch of demons, and we'll see if she's worthy of living. At best, this weird shift in our narrative feels like an improvisation on Kid Darkhold's part, which could explain why it's dumb because he's making this up on the fly, but that doesn't mean that I like it. Why would Kid Darkhold teleport to the arena anyway? Like, he's still in Madripoor. He's just a good run away from the location that he left. Herman and the rest of the Strange Academy kids get over there in like 15 minutes. In terms of escaping Agatha Harkness, this is a sad effort. Why didn't Kid Darkhold teleport to, like, I don't know, Norway, Mexico, Wakanda? Why teleport one block over? I understand why Kid Darkhold is close for the purposes of the narrative, because the Strange Academy kids have to catch up to him relatively quickly. But we have no good explanation in story as for why he stays this close. Agatha herself remains an unimpressive, vague, and honestly kind of stupid threat. Her revamp during the last Midnight Sun series gave Agatha a facelift and a new costume, sure, but it did not give her, like, a job to do or a purpose. Even during at least the Contest of Chaos, Agatha never had a clear reason for recreating the Darkhold. We were told that she saw an important thing coming up, and she wanted the Darkhold so she could stand against it. How cool would it have been if that threat was the Blood Hunt? It would have been easy to guess that Wanda, who has the original Darkhold, wouldn't cast the Montesi formula. She's too kind-hearted for that kind of murderous thing, but Agatha isn't. So her recreating the Darkhold in order to destroy the vampire race because of the threat posed by the Blood Hunt would be a great flooping retcon for this character and the creation of the Darkhold. You could easily say that she did like a divining spell, or she has like a vision that this was going to happen, and so she prepared, but then the spell went sideways because the Avengers got mixed up in everything, and then the Darkhold became a kid. And because he's a chaos kid, he doesn't want to listen to her. Instead, we get, and let me quote Gene Wilder's Willy Wonka here, nothing. Agatha wants the Darkhold. Why? Who knows? Not us. Not this comic, apparently. And then she's defeated by having a can't-do magic spell cast on her, which, in concept, is fine. But why didn't Kid Darkhold do that sooner? Why isn't every magic user just slinging around the no magic spell? That seems like a super convenient way to stop a magical threat. And Kid Darkhold is a living tome of magical knowledge. You can't tell me that he didn't know this spell. Why would he wait to use it up to this point? Why not cast it on the train ride with Agatha when her and Kid Darkhold first showed up back in the first issue of Strange Academy? Or when she last popped up before Dr. Doom showed up out of nowhere? And speaking of the man, Dr. Doom. Why did he show up here? Like, at all? I'm assuming that the idea was setting up the kid's eventual presence over in the Maid Blood Hunt book. After all, Blood Hunt issue 4 has the kid show up at the Castle Doom in Latveria. These two stories have to tie together somehow at some point. But why have Dr. Doom show up at the end of issue 2 just to leave? That makes no sense. They could have just left the Doom part of issue 2 out and had him appear here at the end of issue 3 and then just move on to the Blood Hunt scene. When he shows up, Doom asks the kids to help him save the world, and they tell him, we'll do it, but only if you help us help our friend. And what, he just says no? Oh, your friend is in trouble? Sorry, children. I've got a nation to run and a world to save. I don't have time for that. Here's a coin that'll teleport you to Latveria when you're done here. If you survive, come hang out. I've got gushers. And then what? He just leaves? Don't get me wrong, Doctor Doom is not a very nice guy on an interaction-to-interaction basis, but I honestly don't think that he would just abandon a group of children in a dangerous situation. Especially not when saving them gives him something to rub in the face of the pompous Doctor Strange. Oh, you let your students go to Madripoor and fight vampires with no oversight? We take better care of our children in Latveria. Clearly, this is due to the poor standards you hold, Stephen, but I suppose I shouldn't be surprised. Kind of thing. That's so Doctor Doom. I'm also more vaguely, but annoyed anyways, at the ending scene with Doctor Doom needing the students everything to cast his spell, because we have no explanation for what that means. And I'm just going to spoil this little bit of Blood Hunt issue 5. Here, skip like 2 seconds if you don't want to know this. We don't get an explanation for what that means over in Blood Hunt issue 5 either. The kids literally just disappear from the story after the spell is cast. No one cares about them. To be fair, this isn't unknown in the world of comic book storytelling. Brian Michael Bendis ended his run on Daredevil by putting Matt Murdock in prison, and incoming writer Ed Brubaker just had to roll with it. That kind of blank slate of consequences allows the next writer to tell whatever kind of story that they want to tell, as opposed to doing what the outgoing writer did. So maybe the spell killed the kids. Maybe it just drained them of their magic and now they're all muggles. Maybe it just left them tired and they needed some sleep and a Gatorade to recharge. Whatever the case, the new writer or the next writer of whatever Strange Academy story happens can address it or not address it as they like. I've seen this before. I'm now going to say that it's never happened, but that doesn't mean it doesn't bother me. I like a clear answer. I want to know how this ends. I like a 3-issue miniseries that offers closure to all of the plot points that it establishes, and we at least came close, but then to trip on the final page? Which brings me to my final thought on this book. Author Daniel Jose Older does a fairly decent job in this miniseries of making Herman, Pia, and Kid Darkhold interesting and fairly dynamic as characters. None of them are afraid of making mistakes, which I like, and all of them are capable of learning from those mistakes, which I also like. They've got an interesting set of personalities, we've still got some decent mysteries going on. After all, we've never been told why the vampire that turned Pia wanted Tito to begin with. We get no real explanation for what Tito is at all, and that's something that can be explored more in the future, and so can Kid Darkhold with him joining the Academy. Plus, according to an editorial page at the end of the issue, Marvel is already producing the next Strange Academy project, whatever that is. The character work is, however, counterbalanced by an incredibly ill-thought-out, ill-paced mishmash of a story. None of the dangers feel intimidating, none of the characters' actions make sense or are well explained, and in the larger context of the Blood Hunt, it doesn't feel like any of this mattered. The kids could have just been at school in class, and Dr. Doom teleported in and goes, "All right, kids, haha, field trip, we're gonna save the world," and you would have had the exact same kind of story. So while I did enjoy the ride for what it is, I am left feeling pretty frustrated and pretty annoyed at how loose all of this mess is. In our next episode, we will be closing out the Midnight Suns miniseries. If you enjoyed this episode of Breakdown, please make sure to hit that like button, and if you are not subscribed to the show, then click on that as well. I love getting feedback, and I would really appreciate it if you did so. If you have any questions, concerns, or would like to suggest a comic or a series to me, Breakdown can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and on a variety of podcast platforms, with links in the description for this episode below, as well as the email cbbreakdown@gmail.com. Thank you for your time and attention.